ATA for refusing to let someone work in during sets at the gym. Welcome back to Reddit Stories, where we decode everyday stories, dramatic moments, and sometimes endless debates. Today, we're going to tackle a very familiar but controversial topic: personal boundaries in public, especially at the gym. The story is titled, ATA for refusing to let someone work in during sets at the gym? And the question is, how would you react if you were interrupted in the middle of a serious workout? Is it a small thing, or is it disrespectful? This story comes from Reddit user ugymboundaries. We'll call him OP, a friend who is trying to maintain a serious gym routine in the midst of a busy life. OP says he's a disciplined workout person. He follows a schedule, sets rest periods between exercises, and hates being interrupted during his workouts. During one of his workouts, OP was using one of the chest press machines, a popular machine that often has a line. Suddenly, a man OP had never met before walked up and asked, "Do you mind if I do a few sets with you?" OP made it clear that he still had 4 more sets to go and didn't want to be interrupted. He said, "Sorry, but I don't like sharing machines during my workouts." The other person was annoyed but didn't argue, just backed off with a sharp glare. Soon, OP began to feel the atmosphere at the gym change. The man began to tell others around him that OP was selfish, uncommunicative, and acted as if the machine was his own. A gym employee also approached, asking gently, "You can share the machine if someone else is waiting, right?" OP emphasized that he was still using the machine, not occupying it for too long, and that the priority still belonged to the person using the machine. The employee did not argue, but his eyes clearly showed his discomfort. OP began to wonder, did I overreact? Or do I have the right to protect my boundaries without being judged? When OP shared his experience on Reddit, he said that he always had a clear rule. If he was working out, he did not share the machine, because interrupting, even for 1 minute, affected the effectiveness of his workout. However, after receiving stares and whispers behind his back from a few other people at the gym, he began to feel pressured, as if he was going against some unwritten social rule. And so, the OP took his story to Reddit to ask, am I a bad person for refusing to let strangers share the machine with me when I still have many sets left? Since being posted on the RAITA subreddit, the OP's post has garnered over 21,000 upvotes, thousands of comments, and has sparked a huge debate about personal boundaries in public, especially at the gym, where everyone has different sensitivities and habits. OP supports. You strong and silent. Type. NTA. If you're still using the machine, you have the right to keep it. Working in is a choice, not an obligation. You fitness matters. Working out is serious, especially if you're following a specific program. Being interrupted disrupts your circadian rhythm. I totally get it. You not your machine. The other person has absolutely no right to demand it. You politely declined, not rudely. You did the right thing. You respect. Boundaries. Sharing is good, but respecting boundaries is more important. No one should feel forced to go easy just to please someone else. Neutral opinion. You try. To compromise. I understand both sides. Maybe you could elaborate on why or suggest that the other person do something else first. You fair play, Jim. I don't like sharing machines either, but I usually do it if I feel comfortable. There's no absolute right or wrong. You just curious, bro. If the machines are crowded, refusing can be seen as uncooperative, but if they're empty, I totally understand not sharing. You maybe chill. I think your response is correct, but you could be more gentle or proactive in suggesting a time after you're done. OP critic. Hope you share the gym. YTA, the gym is a shared space. A little flexibility in sharing won't hurt you. You anti-solo hero. You don't own the machine. Refusing makes you seem selfish and unfriendly. You gym bro code. Sharing machines is an unwritten rule. If everyone keeps their own machines, working out will be hell. You unnecessary drama. Feel like you're making a big deal out of nothing. Just agree to work in and get on with your workout. You set boundaries, bro. Working out is a personal and disciplined moment. If you politely decline, no one has the right to force you to share. Refusing isn't rude. Imposing is. The comment received over 200 Reddit votes and became the center of a debate, where hundreds of people shared their experiences of being disrupted during a workout or feeling guilty for saying no. The topic of personal boundaries in public spaces was expanded to other settings: libraries, coffee shops, trains, etc. Some Redditors began the discussion, are we equating being nice with always having to put up with it? One user shared, I was body shamed for not wanting to share a machine. After that, I switched to working out at home. A fitness trainer chimed in and said, refusing to work in is not unprofessional. Workouts are personal, not social. OP's story goes beyond just one exercise machine. It sparks a larger discussion about the right to say no and the pressure to be nice in modern society. Shortly after the post went viral, the OP, the poster, came back with a detailed update to share what happened after the story went viral. OP thanked the Reddit community for making him feel heard and understood. He was surprised to learn that many people had been in the same situation and felt awkward about being forced to share the phone, even though it was uncomfortable. After thinking about it, OP tried to approach the person who trained that day to make peace, but did not see that person again for several days. This made OP feel relieved, because he no longer had to face the uncomfortable gaze from that person. OP also realized that he did not need to feel guilty for saying no politely. He affirmed that he would continue to protect his personal boundaries calmly and firmly, not letting anyone make him feel guilty about it again. Notably, OP shared that he has changed his workout time to earlier in the morning, both to avoid crowds and to have a more private experience without being jostled or disturbed. Currently, OP said that his mood has improved significantly. The comments and empathy from the community have helped him feel less self-conscious about a seemingly small action that touches on a social anxiety, the fear of being judged as selfish just because he knows how to say no. Feel empowered to take control of his personal space, especially at the gym, where there is often a culture of enduring so as not to cause trouble. OP also said that he is no longer afraid of negative reactions from others, because he now understands that many people are also learning to set boundaries like him. In the closing of the update, the OP wrote, I don't want anyone else to feel guilty for wanting to take some space for themselves, whether it's at the gym or anywhere else. We're not bad people for choosing to prioritize ourselves in a healthy way. OP's story seems simple, a situation in the gym, but underneath it all lies a series of conflicting emotions. Self-defense versus guilt. OP feels justified in refusing, but is immediately torn by the fear that others will see her as selfish or unapproachable. Personal boundaries versus social pressure. The gym is not just a place to exercise, but also an environment where people are more likely to be tempted to please others to avoid conflict, even if it makes them uncomfortable. Hidden anger versus surface politeness. Despite her gentle refusal, OP is still met with an unpleasant attitude from the other person, creating a sense of passive emotional manipulation. All of this reflects the mental stress that many modern people face: how to set boundaries without feeling guilty. Reddit acts as a mirror to society. Thousands of people have confirmed OP's experience, helping him no longer feel alone or too sensitive. The community has opened up a larger discussion about privacy in public places, especially at gyms, where there is no clear standard between sharing and abuse. The comments provide legal and cultural perspectives, thereby helping OP and viewers realize that working in is not a given everywhere. The Reddit community is not only a place to vent, but also to give OP the mental strength to understand his position in that situation. Character analysis. OP, narrator. An introvert, respects discipline and boundaries. OP represents a group of people who are often misunderstood as cold simply because they know how to protect their personal space. Work in requester, identity unknown, but actions and reactions suggest this is someone who is used to others accommodating them. When rejected, they immediately react negatively, possibly because their ego is hurt. Reddit community, collective character, but plays an extremely powerful role in relieving the social pressure OP is under and affirms the right to say no as legitimate. 4. Lessons learned. Saying no is a skill, not a mistake. Refusing a request does not mean being unkind. Sometimes, kindness starts with respecting yourself. Boundaries do not need to be understood by others to be valuable. You have the right not to share gym equipment, not to lend your phone, not to say yes if you are uncomfortable. And that does not make you a bad person. Personal space is sacred, even in a shared environment. Respect comes from not forcing others to change their behavior to fit your routine. And that's the whole story. AITA for refusing to let someone work in while working out at the gym? A small situation, but one that opens up a lot of thoughts about respect, privacy, and personal boundaries. If you've ever been in a similar situation, feeling guilty for doing the right thing for yourself, remember what the OP wrote. I don't want anyone else to feel guilty for wanting to keep a little space for themselves, whether it's at the gym or anywhere else. Share your story in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on more emotional and valuable stories from Reddit stories. Do you agree with the OP? What do you think about the machine sharing culture at the gym? Let's talk below. Thanks for watching. See you in the next videos on Reddit Stories, where small stories bring big lessons. AITA for not claiming my friend's mistake on my insurance? Welcome back to Real Reddit Moments, where we unpack the most controversial stories from the Reddit community. Today, we have a story about sacrifice, the line between friendship and personal responsibility, and most importantly, who should pay for mistakes. The story is titled, AITA for not claiming my friend's mistake on my insurance? A collision, an impossible request, and a friendship on the brink. What would you do if your best friend put you in a difficult situation between helping and standing your ground? This story comes from Reddit user UThrowRA We'll call him OP, a friend who straddles the line between kindness and financial sanity. OP lives in a major city in the US and prides himself on being financially sound. He has a new car, full insurance, and tries to keep his life stable. One day, he and his best friend, whom we'll call Dan, decided to go on a weekend getaway. On the way home, OP pulled into a rest stop to get coffee, and Dan, who doesn't have a license, begged OP to let him take the car for a test drive. OP initially refused, but after Dan repeatedly promised to just take it for a spin, OP relented. Less than 10 minutes later, Dan swerved hard into the parking lot, hitting a guardrail. The front of the car was dented, the headlights were broken, and there was significant mechanical damage. The total damage was estimated at over $5,000. When he got home, Dan went quiet. But the next day, he suddenly sent a long message, asking OP to claim the accident to the insurance as if OP was the driver. The reason? Because Dan didn't have a driver's license and was afraid of legal consequences. OP was shocked. His insurance was important. It was used to maintain his credit score, protect his part-time driving job, and most of all, not to cover up someone else's mistake. OP refused. He bluntly said that Dan was responsible, and if he couldn't afford the repair, the two parties could agree to pay in installments. Dan was furious, accusing OP of overreacting, not considering our friendship, and declaring that if he were OP in that situation, he would be willing to help you unconditionally. OP then shared the story on Reddit to ask for advice. Was he being too rational? or could he be more flexible with his best friend? Many people around OP started to take sides. Some mutual friends thought OP should help Dan this one time, but family members supported the tough decision. OP felt guilty, but also feared the future risks of insurance fraud. And most of all, he started to wonder, is Dan really a good friend? Or is he just someone who always expects others to take the blame for him? That's the whole story from OP's side. But when it was shared on Reddit, it created a fierce wave of controversy. From sympathy to outrage, from neutrality to criticism, all opinions were expressed. Shortly after OP shared his story on Reddit, the post exploded, garnering over 40,000 upvotes, thousands of comments, and heated discussions in subreddits related to insurance, friendship, and personal ethics. Redditors were divided into clear opinions. The majority of comments were sympathetic and sided with OP, arguing that he shouldn't be held responsible for his friend's mistake. You practical minds. You're not wrong. If Dan was really a good friend, he wouldn't have asked you to lie to the insurance company. You, as insurance, is serious. If OP had followed through, insurance could have denied coverage, or worse, OP could have been sued for fraud. This isn't friendship. This isn't friendship. This is someone taking advantage of your trust. Legal for D2. With Dan not having a license, OP could be in trouble if the matter is investigated. Some people tried to see both sides and give a more objective assessment. Two sides everywhere. OP shouldn't have let someone without a license drive. But Dan can't just pass the buck like that. You reasonable Redditor. This situation is a great lesson in boundaries in friendship. Both need to learn to take responsibility. Not black or white. Dan is at fault, but friendships can be flexible sometimes. Is there a way for both of them to take some of the blame? What about trust? If OP trusted Dan that much, the current disappointment is even deeper. A small group of people think OP could have gone easier if the friendship was really important. You suck it up, bro. You're being too stubborn. A little lie to protect your best friend isn't that bad? You lifelong buds. If you're a true best friend, you should help him out of trouble, not push him around. It's just money, man. A car is a thing. A friend is forever. You made the wrong choice. You lonely logic. OP is acting more like an insurance agent than a friend. However, the majority of responses to this group of comments were strongly negative, arguing that OP's criticisms were ignorant of the legal and ethical consequences. Top comments that caused a storm. NTA. If a friend asks you to break the rules to save them, that's not a friend. That's a selfish person. From user Fair Boundaries, which received over 27,000 upvotes and hundreds of supportive responses. The OP's story has led to a number of larger topics that the Reddit community has expanded on. Insurance and ethics. When is it okay to lie to a friend? Does kindness justify dishonesty? The boundaries of friendship. Should you help a friend at all costs, even if it's to your own detriment? Car lending responsibilities. What clearer rules should there be for letting others use your personal assets? Similar experiences. Many people have shared that they have been blamed, taken advantage of, or even betrayed by close friends simply because they didn't cover up the consequences for others. The story has gone beyond a minor incident. It has become the starting point for a broader discussion about trust, ethical limits, and personal boundaries. After receiving overwhelming support and heartfelt advice from the Reddit community, the OP returned with a detailed update a few days later. The OP contacted the insurance company to report the incident honestly, clarifying that the driver at the time of the accident was Dan, who was not licensed. The insurance company thanked the OP for being transparent, and while they did not cover the accident because the driver was not authorized to drive, they appreciated the honesty and did not penalize the OP for telling the truth. Dan, The friend who caused the accident reacted negatively. He became angry when he learned that the OP refused to take the blame. Dan accused the OP of betraying their friendship and dumping him when he was at rock bottom. The conversation quickly escalated into a heated argument. The OP decided to cut off contact with Dan after many years of friendship. This incident made OP see the nature of the relationship. Dan often took advantage of OP's kindness, but when it came time to take responsibility, he blamed and withdrew. Currently, OP feels sad, but also relieved. In the update, OP shared, "I lost a friend who I thought would be with me for life, but I also got myself back. The honesty, self-respect, and boundaries that I had lost just to preserve a friendship that was rotten." OP does not deny that her decision caused emotional pain, but OP has no regrets. The Reddit community helped OP realize that kindness does not mean sacrificing yourself for someone else's mistakes. True friendship never requires us to break the rules or lose our dignity. Boundaries are necessary, even with the closest people. The support of the community not only empowered OP, but also helped OP come to the right decision. Choose the truth, choose self-respect, even if it means losing an undeserving friend. The story is a complex and conflicting set of emotions. OP feels torn between friendship and morality. Helping a close friend in need is something everyone wants to do, but sacrificing the truth, facing legal risks and insurance fraud, is something that cannot be taken lightly. OP's frustration when her close friend, Dan, is not only ungrateful but also angry and blaming, makes OP even more hurt. Feelings of loss and relief are intertwined. Losing a friend is sad, but realizing the truth about a toxic relationship is liberating. The Reddit community is more than just readers. They act as a rational mirror, helping OP see the truth when OP is emotionally torn. Many people share similar experiences, thereby creating a space of empathy where OP no longer feels alone. Reddit became the place where OP found his own voice, strengthened his right stance, and overcame his psychological burden. Character analysis, OP, a person with principles, knows his limits and has a sense of responsibility. Although he is easily moved, OP has shown his determination and is willing to lose a relationship to protect his moral values. Dan, friend, represents the type of person who manipulates emotions, always expects others to bear the consequences of his mistakes, and when rejected, turns to blame. Dan's anger reflects selfishness and immaturity. Lessons learned. Kindness needs to have limits. Helping does not mean breaking the law or losing personal values. True friendship does not come from covering up wrongdoing, but from respect and accompanying at the right time and in the right way. Personal boundaries are the foundation of every healthy relationship. Anyone who doesn't respect that boundary doesn't deserve to stay. Honesty is always the hard choice, but the right one. And the truth will protect you when things fall apart. So we've just come to the end of a tense but emotional story, where friendship, morality, and personal boundaries collide fiercely. If you've ever been in a similar situation, where you had to choose between pleasing others and preserving your own values, remember, your value doesn't come from who you sacrifice for, but from how you maintain yourself amidst unfair demands. Feel free to share your feelings below. Have you ever been taken advantage of in a relationship? How would you have behaved if you were the OP? Remember to like, subscribe to the Reddit Stories channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next dramatic story. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video, where we continue to explore the most authentic dark corners of Reddit.